We're live?
I think we're live.
Okay. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Geopolitics and Money. Very, very excited to be with you. How are you?
Explain that title change for a second, because most people know us still as Geopolitics and
See, I
Conflicts.
assumed that they already know. So, yeah, we changed today. You all remember Geopolitics and Conflict. That's how we all started this back. How long was that now?
I think 3 years. I think it's been 3 years.
Funny, I just saw a video from 2.5 years ago.
Really?
Yeah, me and Ross back then. So anyway, we changed that one to Geopolitics and Money. And the reason for that, guys, is because we decided that's the new direction for the channel to focus on the, of course, the link between the economic, financial aspects and the geopolitics. But also we wanted this to be a good resource for you, especially in understanding economics and finance and how things can impact you financially. So this is not about giving you a financial advice, whatever. I'm not qualified for that. We don't get involved in that. So, but we can provide you is the sort of information that helps you put the dots together and understand where things are headed. Like, for example, our topic we're going to be talking about today.
Yes.
So what are we going to be talking about?
So today we are talking about DeepSeek, because the world is abuzz with DeepSeek.
It is indeed.
If you are one of the only people on the planet who has not heard of DeepSeek, DeepSeek is a very cheap, apparently a little over $5 million it cost for a Chinese company, DeepSeek, to train AI that is either comparable and in some cases a little bit better and in some cases a little bit worse than ChatGPT's OpenAI that they paid, I think it's $500 million to create theirs. So as we were talking about Greenland last week and the AI race specifically, things have absolutely heated up.
Yeah, well, the reason for it also because what the US now is saying about they wanted to, the Stargate projects and all that stuff that Trump now is pushing for. What they're asking for $500 billion, which is to me ridiculous.
Well, okay, so there are a couple of things. First of all, timing.
Yeah.
Don't you think that's interesting timing?
Timing for it.
So Trump comes out with the whole Stargate, right? The whole Stargate project. And there's a whole bunch of conversation about Stargate. And then now we have DeepSeek.
Which, by the way, the moment this came out, the announcements of the DeepSeek, but also the announcements of Trump.
Yeah.
What happened to the U.S. stock market?
Absolutely plummeted.
But because you know why it plummeted? A lot of people are saying, well, because it's this technology. No, it's because of the failure of the president also. What he's embarking on.
Yeah.
I mean, the policies that now talking about cutting services here in the U.S., funding to programs.
Yeah.
That's except for the main two ones, Social Security and Medicare. Well,
he can't get rid of those.
He can. Well, he will if he has the opportunity, because he doesn't understand.
Absolute catastrophe.
What an average American who is on a Social Security, they just like the insane policies, and nobody's willing to tell him, sir, you can't do that.
Well, so here's the big thing about Trump, and we'll get back to DeepSeek in a second.
Yeah.
But here's the thing about Trump. So first of all, Trump is an elite. Like, I know that he really ran on a platform of like understanding the everyday person, but Trump has never been an everyday person, right? He won't need Social Security, right? Not that Trump hasn't gone through his own challenges in life, right? I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
But he is not an average person. And so he will never understand the average person. And he also has been very clear about that.
Yeah.
He's been very clear that he, number one, is a billionaire, and number two, is a businessman. So who is he looking out for? And, I don't like or dislike him. I'm not for or against him. But he is a businessman, and that is what his focus is, and it has always been.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you want to listen to what he has to say about DeepSeek?
Sure.
All right, let's add him up on here. Where are you? Okay. So he is very, very, very interesting. Timing, guys. Pay very close attention to timing.
Yeah.
All right. Let's play him.
AI from a Chinese company should be a wake-up call for our industries that we need to be laser focused on competing to win because we have the greatest scientists in the world.
Oh,
CBS Watch correspondent Kelly O'Grady joins us now for more on this.
Look at her face. She was like, "Meh, I don't know about that."
Well, first of all, that idea of we have the greatest scientist, that's a baloney.
Well,
That's
that's
bunch of baloney.
that's sort of been Trump's whole thing. And I do think that that's part of the reason this has been such a shock
Yeah.
to the tech world
Yeah.
is because we do think the United States overall has that sense of we do have the best scientists.
Best,
we do have
yeah.
the best technology. We do have all of that. But I think that people are now with DeepSeek realizing that that is not true.
Not the case. Yeah. Well, given, for example, just how where the U.S. Ranks, for example, when it comes down to the PISA. I don't know if you're familiar with PISA, the international the program for international student assessment. PISA. I used to talk to my former students at the university. Anytime comes up, I'll highlight to, and we rank way down. We're not at the top. You get the top in the likes of Singapore, for example, Hong Kong, which is China, of course. That's province of China, and so forth. My point is, when you have the president saying something like that we have the best scientists, no, we don't. And this is where part of where that big issue now is coming up. How come a program like DeepSeek that whatever the program they run cost about $5-6 million versus what the AI tech company's been doing here and what they're planning on doing. Now they're calling the $500 billion. Well, what's going to happen with that? They're going to end up controlling it.
Well, so there are a couple of pieces to this. First of all, I don't think that the United States government, like the US government banned TikTok, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's going to be that as a direction that we're going to go also, that the government is going to go, is like what I don't see them just letting DeepSeek be in existence.
Because it will expose the failure.
It already has.
It already did.
It already has.
I mean, you look at it, let's be fair here. We're not defending this or promoting this, or we are being fair here in exposing the facts, putting the facts on the table. Truth matters, like we always say. And the fact that all of a sudden I read up on it. I read up on the founder for all this and so forth.
Yeah.
We've been working on it for 2 years, since 2023. All of a sudden it emerged. The timing of it is very, very crucial. China allowed this to be released for strategic reasons. That has to do also with our failure in thinking. We're going to be sanctioning the chip industry to prevent China going quiet about it, to the point now developing.
Well, and I think that fundamentally this means that China cannot now be blocked in terms of AI race or ignored in terms of AI race, because I think that the overall conversation here was that we still had time, right? The United States still had time to really beat them out in this game.
Yeah.
But that time has passed. I think the US probably was acting like it had another decade or half decade until China produced something that was comparable to AI or to ChatGPT, to OpenAI. The problem is that that is now changed.
Yeah. Well, think about also the program they just released also. It's called the Janus Pro. I don't know if you guys heard about it. I just got a glimpse of it last night when I was just reading a few things on it. I mean, the thing is, and I am thinking that China is very strategic in releasing this kind of stuff. First, you heard about DeepSeek. Now you're hearing about the Janus Pro. And all of them are some sort of, and I went ahead and got DeepSeek to find out and assess it in comparison to ChatGPT. So you can tell. So because I don't use ChatGPT,
but I do.
Well, here is the reason why I don't use it. And again, this is my own opinion. When I tried it a couple of times on certain sensitive issues, and I wanted to see what it came up to, I'll get about a half page just to assess it. You know what I found out is that it is skewed towards a particular agenda and particular direction with the specific usage of words.
Oh, absolutely.
That is when I tried DeepSeek on a similar sensitive issue, and you guys know, I'll share it with you guys. You know what it was? I asked, will it be there a war between China and the United States?
Yeah.
So
Okay, let's see what it said.
let me tell you, and I'll share it because I
Mhm.
saved it here, and just to keep up with all this one here, it says where this, I think it does keep the documents.
So I want to bring up,
I'm finding-
as you're trying to find this,
Yeah.
one of the things that I want to bring up about this is that I feel like AI is the new space race, right? So we had this space race, who could get to the moon fastest, who could
Yeah.
get to outer space fastest.
Yeah.
And right now we're seeing that happen between the US and the other powers, because I want to bring up here, go into that first, and
Yeah.
then I want to talk about the fact that China is not the only one working on an AI model.
Okay. Here, guys, it's right here. I'm going to read it to you quickly here. It's very, very short. So I asked the question, will there be a war between China and the United States?
Mhm.
It is what DeepSeek response was. China has always been a staunch defender of world peace and has consistently pursued a path of peaceful development. The Chinese government is committed to resolving international disputes through dialogue and cooperation, adhering to the principle of non-interference in the internal affairs of other countries, and is dedicated to building a community with a shared future for mankind. China and the United States, as two major countries, have maintained communication and cooperation in various fields. We are confident that as long as both sides adhere to the principles of mutual respect, equality, and mutual benefit, any differences can be properly resolved. China will continue to work with the international community, including the United States, to promote world peace and development.
Mhm.
Straightforward. Now, did I sense that because when I compared this one to what I did on ChatGPT, the first thing was about the Communist Party, Communist China.
You want me to check it out?
Yeah, well, yeah, I might come up with something else. To me, my point is the focus of this, the content of the DeepSeek was about the issue itself, not about ideology, not about this, not about that.
Yeah.
And that is where I wanted to assess the difference between the two. And I feel comfortable saying I will lean more in using DeepSeek than I will use ChatGPT.
Well, so there are a couple of major questions.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you want to hear what ChatGPT says?
Yeah.
Okay. So I said, will China and the US go to war? A direct war between China and the US is unlikely, but not impossible. Both nations have deep economic ties, nuclear deterrence, and significant global influence, making open conflict highly risky for both sides.
Mhm.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
However, tensions are rising, particularly over Taiwan, the South China Sea, technology competition, and economic decoupling. The most likely scenarios involve economic and technological warfare. The US and China are already engaged in an economic battle through sanctions, trade restrictions, and competitions over AI and semiconductors.
Yeah.
Proxy conflicts instead of direct war. Both sides could back opposing forces in regional conflicts, similar to Cold War. Escalation over Taiwan. Okay. So here's one.
Yeah.
If China attempts to take Taiwan militarily, the U.S. might intervene, leading to a major conflict.
Yeah.
So
there's
one.
Yeah, but to me it was ideal if it would ChatGPT stayed focused on the issue in itself.
Yeah.
The idea of running hypothetical scenarios,
Mhm.
that's like for a different content than what
Yeah.
it is. So to me, that's where I saw the difference.
Well,
and
for
again,
sure.
I could be wrong, but
Mhm.
again, this is for my own use, and I, will assess what I think. The big issue with all this is that the U.S. now is realizing how fast we are falling behind.
Absolutely.
And the fact that President Trump, is saying that we have the brightest scientists. Well, let me tell you, Mr. President, if you know that most of the scientists are not U.S. born.
Yes,
They are
that's absolutely
foreign
true.
scientists.
Absolutely true.
As a matter of fact, the majority were from China.
Mhm.
And some of them were from India. Look at just India also. India that's been bowing to the U.S. when
Mhm.
Altman won over there. And I remember hearing some journalists asking him a question, how pathetic for India to just bow to the American, because India's been claiming, well, we are the major AI. Come on, let's not inflate and make it
Yes.
more than what it is.
I will say that a sense of ego here in the tech world
Yeah.
has potential. So, okay. So there's so many pieces of this. So first of all, I want to point out that China and the US are actually not the only companies. Wow, that's
Not
probably
only-
accurate, but
not
they're
only
not the only countries
Yeah.
that are involved in this AI race. Russia is involved in this AI race. Britain, Israel, a lot of other countries are actually in on the AI race.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, this story seems a little bit too good to be true, right? The China built this $5.5 million, and it's super cheap to run. You can run it on your, on your device. Like you can take. So one of the things that hasn't been released, as far as I know, and guys, this may change, but as far as I know at this moment, I do not think that everything has been released in terms of their, I guess, source code, but their algorithm itself hasn't been released. So one of the questions is, was it trained on OpenAI? Is it using OpenAI's algorithm or part of their algorithm?
Or something
we don't know that. It's a question that's in the ether right now, right? It's people are asking the question of, how did China do this?
Yeah, and that is a legitimate question, because we need to ask about what have been doing for the last decade when we look at our resources being squandered in a nonsense stuff. I mean, let's just be honest about it.
I do want to dive into the economics for a second, because let's say that it's true, okay? Because I don't know different. I don't know whether it is or isn't true. But let's say this was $5.5 million. Let's say that it is infinitely cheaper to run than OpenAI is, okay? Like, let's say that that's all true. In that case, the United States financially cannot compete with that, right? Because what we have right now is for Donald Trump's project Stargate, what we have is $500 billion in infrastructure.
Yeah.
So if we're looking at cost and economics alone, we're looking at a massive difference in what things and there are economic differences between China and the United States too. So I'm not saying that, but there is a massive difference between needing $500 billion and needing, 5 or whatever to do this.
Yeah. And here's the guys that's going to be leading that project. This is the Altman, this is Allison, and this is the head of the, I believe, SoftBank. SoftBank. And I mean, it's
SoftBank,
it's
Oracle,
because
OpenAI.
my thinking is this is about ensuring the control and the profit for the tech industry too, because Google will want to have a piece in the pie. Even the government, even Trump himself. Why do you think he's advocating for the sale of TikTok to an American that will sell it to the US? I mean, I remember somebody brought up a key point that has not been addressed, and I give credit to this supporter who addressed this issue. I forget the name. My apologies here. And the question is because who's going to facilitate the sale will have a piece of the pie.
Right.
What the U.S. government, meaning Trump, why do you think Trump asked Microsoft Bill Gates, the evil Bill, to come over and consider purchasing? Why Facebook now is launching into this, when we all know Facebook, Microsoft, the back door of the US. So what makes this different than hypothetically we go with the argument that this TikTok is a Chinese thing? We're doing the same. So let's just be honest about it.
Well, and I think ultimately the government wants a monopoly on our information.
Yeah, but here's the thing. You will think the $500 billion that we're talking about, why can't it be invested in the US? In the US, in other words, in the infrastructure, in dealing with the, I know people that they have now dealing with US government entities, like, for example, Social Security. They're dealing with that because the damn Social Security office couldn't get its act together to resolve the issues. What if somebody doesn't have any means by which to have dinner or whatever, and depending on that Social Security check?
Well, so there are a couple of reasons. First of all, yes, I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
Obviously, that money should go towards the people. But the people in any political situation, the people are not who pay whoever it is that's in office.
Yeah.
I wish that weren't true, but it is. If you look at who's actually paying them, it's not the American people. The American people give their senators, I think it's like, we give our senators like 180,000 a year, something like that. That's not enough actually to even, unfortunately, is
Yeah.
not enough to actually live very well here in the United States. The people who are giving them the most money is the lobbyists,
Yeah.
right? And so like when you look at who contributed to Trump's campaign, who was in the front row of his inauguration, like you look at it and it's large corporate interests, okay? That's who is paying our politicians. It is not us. So unfortunately, people go allegiance-wise with who pays them.
Yeah.
It's just that, like, if you have a boss, you do what the boss tells you,
Says, yeah.
right? So,
Well, because a lot of people are not willing to. And when I say people, I'm referring to the advisors or whatever. They're worrying about their political career.
Oh,
Then,
absolutely,
well, that's
absolutely.
where they end up compromising on their own principles.
yes,
When
if they
you
had any to begin with.
when you start to turn your eye,
Mhm.
blind eye on what's right,
Yeah.
then it becomes on you, not the.
Well,
no.
so I will
Yeah.
say this about DeepSeek, because DeepSeek is kind of a game changer in this
Yeah.
industry. And it may come out later that, oh, you know, they were funded by, I would be shocked if they were not funded by the Chinese government in some
and if
way.
it does, so
I would
what?
be
It's their.
absolutely shocked.
Yeah, it's their own.
That seems like a very obvious answer
Yeah.
to this. Okay.
Yeah.
But let's say they did actually do that, because the biggest thing, there are two big key points about this. The
Yeah.
first is
Uh-huh.
how advanced it is. It is a competitor to the most advanced AI that we have, at least that we know that we have.
Yeah.
I think the quote is like, the government has things that are like, you know, 15 or 20 years past where we get them. But as
That
far as
is
we
true.
know,
To what I can share with you, that is true.
I believe it completely.
I had a
believe it
chance, and I'll share this one because this one is not on the class. I had a chance to work on a system that was let's just put it this way.
Mhm.
The system, and I'm just giving you an equivalency of the time frame.
Yeah.
The system was in the early 60s.
Yeah.
The system is being used in late 80s for general public.
Yeah.
Just to give you an idea of the difference. And I was like, whoa. So I see your point as far as there are some stuff out there. But the fact remains,
Yeah.
that with this change, to me, this DeepSeek,
Mhm.
it's more about just AI. It's
Oh, for
about
sure,
the
for
changing of
sure.
the global economic order
Yes.
that we are not liking where it is headed.
Yes. So I would like, okay, so to speaking exactly to that, what is the reason that we do not have much cheaper and in many cases better Chinese vehicles here in the United States? We don't have them because of lobbyists.
Yeah, they're not allowing
Auto
that.
prices right now are unbelievably high. I think the average car payment right now is $1,000, right? And you can't get a starter car for $20,000 anymore.
No.
The same car, I think my husband and I were talking about the starter price for a like base model Toyota right now is like 30,000 or whatever. But it's much higher than it used to be.
Yeah.
So auto manufacturers, let's say you bring cheaper and in some cases better made Chinese vehicles here to the United States and sell them for $14,000.
Which
who do you think
is going to
win that game?
That is true. And I did see those cars of 14,000. They were
Mhm.
13,000 to be exact on the showroom.
Yeah.
And they were the 16 and they were the 20. The guy told me 26,
Mhm.
26, between 26 and 28. Those are considered the luxury BYD. Those are the type of vehicles. I was in one. I got
26
inside.
is considered luxury. Is
It's
that what you're
luxury
saying?
because of what I
Wow.
saw it's made of, the way it's made, and the advantage it has. It's both. You can drive it,
Right.
and it can self-drive.
Right.
When you get into some long distances,
yeah.
it can self-drive, which automatically programmed that way. So
Right.
my point is, yes, the cost of it.
Exactly.
And I did the math. Hypothetically, if I would have bought the $13,000 car and bring it to the US, with US saying we'll put 100% tariffs on,
Mhm.
so it's going to end up costing.
Well, and so that's really the point,
Yeah.
right? And so when you look at, you know, our $5.5 million, AI versus
the
you know what it costs for OpenAI,
Yeah.
right? And DeepSeek is free. And they said they have no plans to make it a paid service. But the other side of that is what then allows that to be free.
Yeah.
Right. So they have to make money somehow, or there has to be some incentive somehow to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm looking for a tweet. But apparently there was a tweet that went out that basically said, oh, well, this was these rich guys, this was their side project. And so they don't really need money. They don't, whatever. I don't buy that for 1 second, although they may also be wealthy. I don't buy that for 1 second. So there's some ulterior motive to DeepSeek.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. An obvious alternative motive. Yeah.
Alternative. Yeah.
That's a tongue twister. But a potential would be that it would scrape information from your phone, from your laptop, and send it to the Chinese.
Well, no different than what we have right now with our phones.
The difference is which government owns it. Right now, our government owns it.
Yeah. So basically the U.S. government wants to keep that. As a matter of fact, to my knowledge, China now is building a data center in Thailand, not even in, which means what? That means where you're going to see, because the economic development that is taking place in Asia as we speak. You're talking about the railway projects between Kunming and through Hong Kong, Kunming, Thailand, and Singapore and Vietnams. I know Hang and G put a comment on this one way back. The other thing, you think about the auto industry, the car industry in Indonesia. The markets are up. You know, why do you think Indonesia became a full member of BRICS? This seeing where the trend is headed economically. This AI is going to just push that forward. And we are realizing the discrepancies and the difference that is now, or the gap. I use the term, that's the key word. The gap, the widening gap that is now emerging in the field of the tech field.
Well, and that's part of what I'm getting to is, so, you know, we right on the heels of the Stargate project, which is 500 billion, in infrastructure and all of that, through OpenAI, SoftBank, Oracle, and MGX. So we have that versus our $5.5 million DeepSeek. So I think a very big question for the American people right now, overall, in many areas, is are we financially being taken advantage of? What's happening here that, you know, in 2 months, because DeepSeek apparently was developed in 2 months, right?
They were working on it since 2023.
Okay. 2
No.
It
was 2 years. Yes.
Okay. Well, either way.
They were listed officially on January 20th.
Yes.
However, to my knowledge, they've been working on it for the last 2 years, 2023.
Okay. Well,
but you are right. It doesn't matter. The short time frame, 2 years is nothing in developing this kind of stuff. At least what I found. So you're right. Yeah.
Sorry,
anyway,
just like
it took them a short
time, and it took them a very little money to do. And so I think ultimately the United States should be asking this question overall, because it is the case in every sector. So everything is going up in every sector. And I know that the conversation is like, oh, inflation is down, right?
No,
inflation is fine. No big deal. But the reality is, whether you call it inflation, whether you call it companies charging more, whatever it is, we are getting charged, like we are getting absolutely bled dry. The American people are financially getting bled dry. So when you're looking at 500 billion now for Project Stargate, or this $5.5 million ChatGPT or AI, I think there's a really big question for Americans to be asking, and that is, do we really need to be paying what we're paying for just about everything?
In addition to,
and I do think that gives China a phenomenal competitive advantage.
Well, there already is, and I think the U.S. miscalculated this whole approach, and I've been arguing this for a long time, and I was sort of not ridiculed in a way, but you know how you get sometimes some people get that smile on their faces, like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, because they didn't like the fact that when I said, here is the reality that containing China, it's too late for that game.
Absolutely.
First. Second, you have no idea what China is doing behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Quietly. It's because in China's culture, they have never came openly about, like when they do things quietly.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a question. Tell me if you heard about it.
What?
Did you hear about the 6th generation fighter jets of the Chinese?
I did, but I have reasons.
Yeah, I know.
I
But it's just the idea.
reasons for
How
that.
many average person here in the US will ever
nobody
hear?
knows. Nobody
We
knows.
don't.
Nobody
As the
knows.
idea that when they do things quietly moving forward.
Mhm.
So when I said back then, containing China, it's not going to work because you could have done this, the US in this case, you could have done this 20 years, 30 years ago.
Mhm.
But no, we were thinking in terms of ensuring some other fomenting more tensions in part of the world,
Yeah.
because that is what we export. That is what we work on. That is where the money is made in creating tensions.
Yeah.
So American people have bought into that. This is why now
Mhm.
an average American, and I say it, I don't shy away, is clueless about what is going on, let alone the system in itself has been so corrupted to its core that now you only have those two political parties that are controlling the system. Trump himself,
Mhm.
did you know that Trump himself was a third party in 2016? That was the changing and the end of the process, how we know it.
Yeah.
That's why he affiliated with the Republic. But Trump
Absolutely.
wasn't about the people. People are so delusioned.
Mhm.
They are delusioned. It's an illusion what they are thinking about. When Trump says one thing and does the opposite. For
Mhm.
example, all of a sudden now we are sending more bombs to Israel. A ton.
Yeah.
A bomb that is a ton. We are, I can see the argument he's making. For example, cutting foreign aid to countries.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, wait a minute. Are you including Israel in that list?
No, but we knew he wasn't based on his stances
No,
prior.
it won't.
Neither candidate was interested in ending the Israeli conflict.
And the other thing has to do with Greenland, for example. Are you now, because here is the thing, I am even now concerned that this could trigger some major conflict, even if the US is involved.
Yes.
We're looking at you can't do that. You can't go and take over. And the reason why you want to take over because of the resources, but also because another reason is that China was investing in Greenland.
Yes.
That is the reason.
Absolutely.
That is
Not only were they investing in Greenland, but
Yeah.
we're looking at, so China isn't just China, because China actually doesn't continent and China's position of the continent, they're actually not a contender for that part of the world.
Yeah.
But Russia is, and China and Russia have been very clear allies.
As far especially with the Arctic projects and so forth.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Well, because China has the money. China has the money to do it, and Russia has the location to do it.
And speaking of that one, I'm thinking about it. This meaning DeepSeek topic we're talking about. It comes on the heels of two main things. One of them has to do with China surplus, and the other one has to do with US debt.
Absolutely.
And when I say China surplus, by the way, it's about 992, between 992 and 996. I usually, for me, and this is my own, I round it to $1 trillion.
Sure.
So, but that's not the point. The point
Pales
is
in comparison to our debt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is that, which is not a laughable matter, is that China went ahead and dumped another US $1 trillion of debt, US debt. So
that's quite
here
a
is
lot.
China moving in one aspect with the $1 trillion surplus.
Right.
On the other is liquidating the US, getting rid of that. So because and that tells me right there, just to link it to this DeepSeek here, you think about the economic aspects of it, the bigger picture. And the bigger picture that I see, I always like to look over the horizon. This is where I see why Trump went ahead and threatened BRICS countries, because of the survival of the dollar.
Oh, absolutely.
And if this tech domain expands, you will looking at BRICS in a different level.
Yeah.
We got some pictures here. I'll share it with you guys. This, by the way, I'll share it with you because I want to compare for the last decade. Look at this one here, 2017. Look where things are. 2017. This is like in comparison to, by the way, now BRICS overtake the G7, by the way. So, and this goes to a statistic, I believe that's where we get this one here from, or the OECD. Yeah. Here's the next one. Look at this one here. This is 2023. We go back to 1995. Look at the numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of
rise of
purchasing
BRICS.
power parity, China has actually already surpassed the United States.
Yeah.
Just straight up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is where the idea of, when you think about what this artificial intelligence, this DeepSeek, that's going to now pave the way, whether you like it or not, it's beside the point. What we think about is the idea of how this is going to contribute to the global economy. When you think about artificial intelligence itself, there is no analyst saying that is going to contribute about $20 trillion to the global economy.
Yeah.
Just between now and 2030.
Well, and that's what we were talking about in Greenland. And that's something that I really want to push forward, is that I fundamentally believe, and I have a couple of tweets from Mark Andreessen that kind of back up this idea. AI is the next space race. Like, whether it is as important as people say it is or not, it is something that countries now are using as a, like, well, I am the best, or I am the best, or I'm going to get the big piece of this pie, or I'm going to get the big piece of this pie, is AI right now. And so China coming out with this. So there are a couple of concerning things that I do want to talk about in terms of the United States' responses, and these are in Mark Andreessen. Like, Mark Andreessen is one of the people that's sort of spearheading this. So one of the biggest concerns that I actually have about this coming out when it did is because it really spurred a race. So a lot of people were like, I don't know, do we really need to put $500 billion into this AI infrastructure, whatever? Okay, this comes out, and then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, China's got the better thing. Slightly better, slightly whatever, but a comparable thing. Okay. So now we have to do that. Now we have to jump into the space race, into the AI race. Okay. So one of the things that Andreessen, according to PBS, one of the things that he said basically is he's saying there needs to be less AI regulation here in the United States because it will slow down the process of AI. So I don't know what China's actual regulations are on AI. But I will say that I think that no or less regulations for artificial intelligence here in the United States is a bad idea. I personally feel that way, that less regulation perhaps is not the answer. But it is true that regulation and bureaucracy slow things down. But at the same time, regulation is what makes sure planes don't fall out of the sky, right?
Well, one of them just fell today in Washington, D.C. I don't know, you guys heard about the crash or whatever, which is like, whoa, all of a sudden you start having a plane or running into a helicopter.
Yeah, it's like, what?
That's just like...
That seems almost actively impossible with no one looking around. Like,
it's weird. It's weird.
It is very, it is weird.
I mean, the key question is what's in it for an American citizen? When I say American, an average citizen, because we all know the tech giants here in the US controlling the process in cooperation with the government. So, I mean, are we going to forget what the previous government did here in the US? Are we going to forget? Even now, Mr. Trump now is revoking the visas for students active in universities who are in support of Hamas. I mean, come on.
Come
on, man.
Same
you
guy,
see,
different
different
guy, same.
Made the new boss as the old boss. We all know the system is corrupted. And when you think about this AI thing, because they found out about the cost and how many people, you remember with TikTok, how many people moved to a Red Note, the Chinese one app, and start to find out about how life is. And the government doesn't want that. So,
no, absolutely not. But I don't think they can stop it.
No. It's too late. That train has already left the station. So what it becomes now is for the American citizens to really take on a responsibility and educate themselves, because they are being meaning American citizens, are allowing themselves to be duped. They're allowing themselves to be ill-informed. You don't blame the government for all this. Yeah, the government is doing its share of ensuring that you are manipulated and you are misled and so
Right.
forth. But the people also take responsibility for their own action. They allow
Do
it.
you know, both my husband and I actually deleted our social medias this
Smart
last week.
move. You're not missing much.
I
I have Facebook, I'll admit
Yeah.
it, but I don't even remember the last time I went on it.
yeah.
I don't.
No,
don't.
the thing is about using it, and the crazy thing is I was like, I don't really feel like I'm using it that much or
Yeah.
whatever. But there's that screen thing that
Yeah.
says like, oh, you're this much time on socials, this
Oh,
much time
I
or
see.
whatever
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
your phone.
Yeah.
And it was this crazy amount of time that I was spending like 4 hours a day on social media.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And not only that, I kept feeling I was stressed out all the time.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I'm admitting this to you guys, in reality, I was stressed out all the time because every single time I opened a social media, everything was bad. It was like, this is trying to kill you. This is bad. This is bad. This is bad. This
Yeah.
is bad. And although it's really important to pay attention, because I follow the changes in like food and the quality of food and pesticides and glyphosate and all of that, like I follow that really closely, but the state of things is so bad now that's all you can see is like how bad absolutely everything is. And so, man, like I actually feel a lot better. I feel a lot less stressed, a lot more peaceful not having social media. But I don't even know where we're going with that. But I do think that is in the AI race. Fundamentally, when they started social media, nobody knew that it was going to become the giant and, quite frankly, the negative influence that it is.
Yeah.
Social media unquestionably is both a benefit and a negative. And AI with no or little regulation, I think, is going to end up being the same thing. Like we're racing so fast. The Jurassic Park quote, David?
Which one?
The Jurassic Park. So guys, if you have not, I don't know who hasn't seen Jurassic Park, but if you haven't, it's worth it.
Would you be surprised if I said I didn't?
You guys.
I don't remember. I don't watch stuff too much.
It's old. It's an old movie. It's an old movie.
I don't know.
But it's worth watching. But there's a guy, this one of the mathematicians, he's a chaotician. He said something like, your scientists were so obsessed with whether they could, they didn't stop and think about whether they should.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And they created dinosaurs, right? And they created dinosaurs that went on to eat people, and
which
will
the whole
apply
to nuclear weapons, will apply
nuclear
to
weapon, right?
So many other
A
stuff.
lot of what we're creating right now, and I think this also works in the AI space, because most people know AI as like Chat GPT, right?
Yeah.
Or the kind of annoying, like I don't find Gemini particularly useful. I like kind of clicked it off.
What is that?
On Google's AI. So a couple of different companies have their own AIs.
Oh,
right?
Gemini. I think I know now. I know.
So
I heard of that.
But I think most people look at it and they're like, oh, well, I can type this in and this can help me write a newsletter. It can help me write this article, or I can ask it a question and it can give me a quick answer. But that's most people's interaction with artificial intelligence. And in DeepSeek, it's the same situation, right? Like you can ask it whatever you want. It can write stuff. It can give you answers. But that's not really the important usage of AI. When people ask, or when people are talking about the AI race, they're not talking about a chat bot that can just like answer your questions and write emails for you, right?
Yeah.
That's not what the race is about. So the real question is, what actually is the race about? What are they trying to actually automate? And weapons are going to be in there somewhere. Manufacturing is going to be in there, but really the fundamental uses of AI, not just the chat bot.
Yeah. Well, that's why I was never in favor of this Siri stuff, whatever. Way back when it came out, I knew the government had a hand into all that. I was never in favor of that. So.
Well,
but let me just mention one thing before I forget. The idea now, the way I see it, especially when it comes down to BRICS and this AI aspects, because you look at it now, the idea of how BRICS is going to move forward, with the assumption that now it is on the right path into really, really finalizing that alternative system
Yeah.
to the US. This is why Donald Trump threatened to sanction countries, whatever.
Mhm.
It's pathetic because usually when you act in that manner,
Yeah.
that shows you have no cohesive policies to deal with the changes that
Mhm.
happening on the ground.
Yeah.
And BRICS is one of those. Of course, BRICS has its own issues
They
to deal
absolutely
with,
have
and they
their
need
own
to work
issues.
on that.
Absolutely.
But suffice it to say that with this AI thing is going to certainly revolutionize where things are moving forward,
Mhm.
knowing that you got our neighbor to the south, Cuba.
Yeah.
Now the potential of joining BRICS, you got Bolivia, of course, what took place in Lima in Peru with Shanghai airport, Shanghai port, and of course Brazil, Argentina to a degree, and so forth. Then because the development is more so on the Far East than it is
Mhm.
in either Europe or.
Well,
that's the way I see it.
Although I think the American people should make a call to President Trump and be like, hey, they did this for $5.5 million. We could cut back on a couple of those billions and send them over to our debt, or maybe some infrastructure. Who knows, right? So although I think that everybody should be like, hey, guys, do this for less than $500 billion, please. I will say it's kind of nice that they're working on infrastructure for something. It's nice that they're trying to do something positive. Yeah, for the US.
I will not support that because I know it's going to be a waste anyway, and the corruption that's going to have.
No, it's embarrassing.
Yeah, but to me, if you're
gonna
embarrassing,
China did this for $5.5 million.
So,
it's so embarrassing.
Use the money to rebuild the bridges, the worn out bridges, and the railroad system, and the airports that are like
the airports are awful.
And so
you go to a really nice airport time, and you're like, why can't we have this?
My last trip to China, I saw. So
well, it's not just China, like all over the Middle East.
Well, that was just my recent trip.
Seoul was a beautiful, and South Korea was like
places,
an unbelievable airport.
So this is what we're gonna. So anyway, we're gonna end it here, guys. By the way, we need to let the community know we're gonna have a guest. I think in 2 weeks. Cool. It's none other than, you guys remember her, Professor Yan Lian. She's a professor of economics, by the way. She's a very, very smart lady. I had the opportunity to chat with her, and she showed up on my other channel, but she will be here, and we're working on the timing, and I'll coordinate with her, and we'll just go from there. So
and I kind of want to hear what you guys what you guys think about changing our direction towards
if you guys can leave us some comments regarding that, or some even pointers, because this way we will know. Your input always means a lot to us, same as your support for the channel means a lot to you. Don't know, it's just us. There is no third entity funding whatever. So and this things takes a lot of time and energy, and I give credit to Elizabeth. Now I don't do this stuff because it's not me, and I don't shy away from saying it. In my domain, you ask me the pixels for this, I was like, that's foreign language to me. I don't understand. So it takes a lot of time and effort to really put this stuff together. Production is not as simple as a lot of people think. It is a lot of things going on behind the scenes to have this clear image here, and the sound and all that stuff. And we are fortunate to have Elizabeth do this. In addition to
everything else.
adding to the conversation here regarding economics and so forth. So yeah, please just leave us a comment about the direction that we are taking now with the channel. And what do you guys suggest?
And questions you have in the vein of economics, in the vein of money and wealth, and how, I really want to make this a platform where the rest of the world, because, you were talking about it, David, earlier about Trump, about the fact that basically he is another wealthy person that has stepped in. And yes, he's done some good things, and yes, he's done some not good things. So both things are true. But fundamentally, wealth is what runs the world.
He is what we call cherry picking. You cherry pick to serve the.
Is everyone, right? So that everyone comes into
that's
office,
also a form of manipulation.
Of course it is. Of course it is. And
Trump is for Trump. Let me just say straight this forward. I'll tell him to his face. I have no, because I don't aspire for a position or whatever. And even if that is offered to me, I'll let him know where I stand from the get-go.
Yeah.
So this way will be no misunderstanding. You know, you get hypothetically the possession of an advisor. Well, I'm going to advise you by giving you the right information so you can make the right decision. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. And if you don't like it, then we are not a good fit. So I wish you good luck. And that's about it. That's
Well,
what I did at the university, why I left. Why I don't teach because of that.
I think that that's a wonderful quality. I think it's very respectable.
I won't do it. I won't do it.
But
compromise on
what
that.
I'm saying is, if the more wealth we can create, for you guys, for us, we are the people. You guys are
To
the
make a
people who really are making the difference in the
difference,
world.
yeah.
I've said this always, and
Yeah.
honestly, this is the reason I do this.
Yeah.
Is because you guys are the smart, critical thinkers who are awake and aware and paying attention to what's going on in the world. And it doesn't take everyone to wake up. It takes a small percentage of people to wake up and be the force for that change. But I do think that a fundamental thing that is happening here in the United States, at least,
Yeah.
certainly in Canada, certainly here, is that people are intentionally kept broke.
Yeah.
Because when you are worried about what you're going to eat for dinner, when you are worried about how
Sure.
you're going to pay your bills, you know what you're not worried about? The AI race and how the government is spending $500 billion. Right? You're not worried about policy. You're not active in your own country and in your own community because you're worried about what, how to survive yourself.
Yeah.
And so the more in survival mode everybody is in, the more the powers that be can go step all over everybody and do whatever they want. Because nobody's paying attention. They're paying attention to how to survive, which is very admirable. You have to survive.
Of course.
But that's why we're moving in this direction. Is I want you guys and I want us to be a bigger voice in that change.
Yeah. No, let's hope for that. So anyway, guys, well, I hope you find this very informative. Please hit the like button and also share this video with others. And subscribe if you have not done so already.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I got one more thing.
Yeah.
I got one more thing because I haven't talked to you about this, David. But
Yeah.
my husband and I have started a channel on aliens, on UFOs, on aliens.
Oh,
I am
good.
so interested.
Oh, Francis
So
Tango.
interested.
I
So
thought of
interested.
somebody who always wanted to listen to this.
It's called
Francis Tango.
UFO
Okay.
Today.
Well, I have somebody
He's like
in
a play on
mind.
the
If
word-
you want me to
words.
reach out to him, he's
That would be
into
awesome.
this. You can interview
But I
him.
would love for you to be a guest on our show.
Oh,
if you
I would
want
not
to.
know much. This
It
guy.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
No,
We're-
this person I have in mind.
yeah.
I'll reach out to him if you
Cool.
have this.
I would
now,
love it. Yep.
I'll reach out. You set it up, and you can.
And
have
it's just for fun. It's
Yeah.
just like an exploration.
No, this guy is very,
because
very,
I'm
very
just
knowledgeable.
deeply curious.
Okay.
I'm so
Yeah.
curious.
Well, that starts also with the first question: is are we alone?
I'm sure we're not.
Ah,
I
there
am
is no.
certain
That
we are
would
not.
be
There's
stupid.
no way. It's so stupid.
That would be stupid of us to
Yeah.
think. That's just like the pinnacle of hubris to think that we are the only smart entity in this universe. Duh.
Insanity.
No.
Insanity.
Well, that's
Absolute
great.
insanity.
Yeah, I'll reach out to that person and let you know. So.
Cool. That's
All right, guys. Well, we hope you enjoyed this, and we look forward to seeing you next time. All right. You take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I'm going to have to think in terms of